Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. I'm Rufai Seni.
I am Adesua Omoran. And I'm Shaito Asigari. Good morning.
All right, but before we go straight to it this morning, let's just have a chat around this. We have a packed show for you today. I mean, Shaito, you had a great evening on Saturday, and it was just an amazing evening. I saw you glowing, and I should say this to the world. Shaito was glowing, and she's the best red carpet host
this morning.
ever. So we're going to talk about that. We have a package report, I understand, as regards that. And also, we're going to be talking about many things happening in and around the country. Yesterday, we did talk about border closure. The Nigerian government on Monday listed conditions to be met by Benin, Republic of Benin, and Niger Republic before the country will reopen its borders for goods importation. The federal government said neighboring countries must respect economic community of West African state ECOWAS rules of origin if they must bring goods into the country. Minister of Foreign Affairs Chief Godfrey Yema noted that any good imported from ECOWAS member states must have 30% local impute, noting that the country will no longer tolerate repackaging of goods coming into the country. He said the only travel document allowed for anybody coming into the country through the land borders is the official passport, adding that the country will not accept any form of identification like identity cards. According to him, the conditions are aimed at ensuring that the country does not end up as a dumping ground, while emphasizing that the preconditions for both goods and humans coming into the country applies to all ECOWAS member states.
Yeah,
Your take on this?
You know, this kind of reminds me of the conversation we had yesterday when our guest kept on talking about the holistic, view of, closing, the reason for the border closure. However, I still feel that we haven't tackled the right issues. He said, it's almost like putting the chicken, before the egg, or the egg before the chicken. Which should come first.
I mean, what are the right issues?
Right, for one, infrastructure. If we're not able to locally produce goods, there's no point, closing the borders and stopping people that have businesses from bringing certain goods that they need to continue in society.
Yeah. One thing is certain, this has generated diverse reactions. I mean, I listened to the governor of Benue State yesterday who said, the border closure is a good thing for farmers like us in Benue State. So there are those who are obviously reaping the benefits of this border closure, and there are those that are at the end of the stick, feeling the bite of it. The border communities, those who stay, those who stay at the border, other countries that we do trade with, obviously, are feeling the brunt of this. We know a high-level delegation from Ghana has come to the country, making a case for all of that. So it's not about to end anytime soon. From the body language and the rhetoric we have seen from the government, from the officials involved, it's not just the customs. A lot of people think that the border closure is about the customs, but it's a whole lot of security agencies involved.
To a large extent, like I said yesterday, it goes back to the idea of how we want to run the economy. And I cited China. China shut itself to the world in something called the Cultural Revolution. Mao Zedong shut itself to the world. And it said, I'm not going to trade with anybody. China was suffering. In fact, there were more skyscrapers in Lagos than in Shanghai. The economy was almost comatose because in the bid of shutting itself to the world. Guess what happened? Mao Zedong died. The Central Communist Party brought in a guy called Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping came in, and Deng Xiaoping made a famous statement. He said, it's not about the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. We're going to trade with the world. Deng Xiaoping came in, trade increased. I mean, as at 1979, China was producing 400 units of air conditioners. Today, China produces over 40 million units. China is the highest producer of air conditioners in the world. There's a company called GRI that produces the largest amount of air conditioners in the world. China opened up their potentials to the world because they started trading with the world. When they joined WTO in year 2001, further heightened their potential. So the truth is, we need to fix our internal problems. But because things are coming in, it's because we're not producing enough in here too. We need to ask those very salient questions. But we'll move off that now and talk about, despite criticisms from the National Assembly and social political groups, including Afenifere and Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, the Nigerian Army has vowed to continue Operation Positive Identification. Now, this stiff opposition from various quarters include a legal challenge. The Defense Headquarters insisting on going ahead with its Operation Positive Identification, saying it is meant to flush out combatants infiltrating the Nigerian borders.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Toko Buratai, who appeared before the House of Representatives Committee on the Army, defended the operation, saying any means of identification will be accepted during the exercise. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana has already sued the Nigerian Army, its Chief of Staff, and the Attorney General of the Federation, praying for an order stopping the operation positive identification by the Army. In announcing the operation, the Nigerian Army had said the nationwide exercise is to check out for bandits, kidnappers, armed robbers, ethnic militia, cattle rustlers, as well as other sundry criminals across the various regions of Nigeria.
Well, the exercise, which has drawn condemnation, is scheduled for the 1st of November to the 23rd of December this year. And joining us now to make sense of these developments and the legal implications of this is Joe Nwokedi, a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Nwokedi.
It's my pleasure.
Let me begin by asking you, what is the position of the law in Nigeria on an operation such as this? Is it illegal?
It is to a large extent. It has to do with the agency conducting it. Because the Constitution is so clear as the power of the agencies, like 215, exclusively give the power to the police for such issues. Monitor the people, check whatever that might occasion a kind of breach of the Constitution of the law or breakdown of law and order in the country. It's not, the military people are just like to be thrown in where we have a war situation. In areas we believe that a war situation has arisen. In that kind of place now, the president, under Section 217, will now make application for the National Assembly to approve that the army should be deployed to help rescue that situation. But now, this particular operation, positive identification now, is an infringement on the powers of the police. We have the police personnel, we have DSS, we have what they call this civil defense and all the paramilitary and other things. They have laws that establish them, and they have scope of operations assigned to them to discharge in line with the constitutional provisions and the enabling law that established them. But now the army cannot conduct such an exercise all over the whole Nigeria. If actually a war situation has arisen, like the case we know in Northeast, like terrorism and other things, they might work in, in cooperation with the police that will provide necessary information and intelligence that will enable them to, advance in their quest to, rid the nation of foreign invaders. Because the sense of, when this issue came up, I was like, how do you think that people who identify themselves will help to sort out certain, commission of certain crimes? Every Nigerian is entitled to that identification. That doesn't stop him from committing crimes. I have it. If I want to commit any offense, does that stop me? If you want to know whether I'm a Nigerian, I will show you my identity card. I'm a Nigerian. But if I'm a Nigerian, does that alone stop me from kidnapping people?
But the essence of this, is it to stop people from committing crimes because they have it, or to catch them because they have committed the crime in identifying who they are? Because they say this is, furtherance to operations they've been carrying out before. It's a subset of operations they've had before in the Northeast, which is successful.
For me, the essence of that is to fish out people that are not Nigerians. Basically, in the Northeast, like most of these Boko Haram, we know that it's like a cosmopolitan, some West African sub-region, ISWAP and the rest of them. They're like infiltrating Nigeria, join the Boko Haram group and terrorist group or ISWAP, then come into Nigeria, commit crimes, and they disappear into Sambisa forest and all the borderline communities. But talk of Nigeria here. If somebody commits a crime, his identity is not an issue. It's not an issue. We have high-profile issues. Both kidnapping, both rape, both defilement, both fraud.
Why is the identity not an issue?
You always know the identity. They are Nigerians. You know where they stay. You know whom they are. If you are in doubt as to whom they are, you detain them, pending when they prove their identity. If they don't, you charge them to court and then continue the prosecution.
But that's against their fundamental human rights.
No. Fundamental human rights, we always mistake it, Fundamental human rights is not absolute. In infringement of the law, if you go at almost all the fundamental human rights, they have sub. Okay, there are areas that fundamental human rights might not have value. If you commit any offense, if you are to be detained in court, if you commit like fundamental right to life. It's not exclusive. If you commit offence that warrants murder or manslaughter, it can be sentenced to
what
death.
we're saying here is verbally they are suspects in the first place.
Yes.
And I'm going to take you back to section 41.
Freedom of movement.
Freedom of movement.
Move freely all over the whole
we can move freely all over. But there were also clauses in section 38, 39, and about 40 of that where you can, impinge on that freedom.
Yes.
And
it's not absolute.
And it's clearly spelt out there. But I will go back to the words of Senator of Nigeria, Femfalana, that says, it's a stark reminder of what the military used to be like in the military era. In fact, some people say the military has quickly become Nigeria's Gestapo, or it's a gulag once again. What will you say to those assertions?
That's what we was just saying. They can't just exercise that overhead functions. It's not the powers conferred on them. They can't just usurp powers not given to them by the Constitution. They don't have any constitutional rights to conduct that exercise. It is exercised completely in breach of our fundamental
But both of us both agree that there are clauses in the Constitution that can invalidate that right of movement, like we talked about 38, 39, and it says if it's in national defense, number one, if it's in the state of public morality, number two, if it's the state of public health, number three, in the case of Ebola, for instance, to restrict movement and things like that. But the military here is citing the war situation in the Northeast.
Exclusively in the Northeast. Nobody, get me clear.
Well, Nigeria is at war.
No, Nigeria is not at war. Nigeria as a country is not at war.
I asked you a question. If Nigeria is a sovereign state and a particular area is at war in Nigeria, doesn't it affect the whole federation?
That doesn't make the whole country to be at war.
But the section was being bombarded during the war period, during the Civil War, and it was called the Civil War.
But it was civil war basically in that section. Other parts of Nigeria were busy doing their things. Nobody stopped their movement. Nobody restricted it. Nobody barricaded it. Nobody implemented economic sanction against them. Goods and services were moving freely all over the whole parts of Nigeria. It was within that eastern region there that they had a blockage of economic and everything, all that things. Not the whole Nigeria. A part of a country might be at war. Not east in Nigeria, Boko Haram dominated area. We might be at war there. That doesn't mean that the exercise that you might deem appropriate or efficient or result-oriented in that area will not be replicated in other areas. That had nothing to do.
Even if they say this is based on a credible intelligence that these elements these suspected terrorists are spreading out of their traditional strongholds. And we all know that the fight against terrorism has quickly transformed from just being in the Northeast to banditry, to herders, to rustlers, and all of that.
We have to give them the normal appellation that they deserve. Terrorism is different from banditry. Banditry is different from kidnapping. Kidnapping is different from herdsmen attacks. You have to differentiate them, because if you give them a general coloration, then that means devising a way of combating them will be difficult, and there will be a constitutional breach. Because if you talk of kidnapping or banditry, you can deploy the police. It's within the powers of the police to handle that. To gather information, kidnapping requires intelligence gathering. You don't just discover who is a kidnapper. He stays with you. He mixes and mingles with you. He attends religious functions with you. And he has business around you. And then some of them are even philanthropists. So you don't just say, because of this, you now start bombarding the whole place. When we talk of war situation, we talk of a place you have like a coordinated attack.
All right, we'll quickly go to a quick break. We'll come back and talk some more. Mr. Nwokedi.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still talking about Operation Positive Identification, and we have with us in the studio Mr. Joe Nwokedi, a legal practitioner, to make sense of this development. Now, I want to cite the Terrorism Prevention Act that gives leverage for the army to check based on suspicion. Now, we know that this has slowly become an internal problem because we do have these terrorists, these Boko Haram sects, in Nigeria, and like Adesola rightfully mentioned, they have started to spread out into the nation. Now, what is this is what like the Constitution states for the Nigerian army. Is that fair to them? Haven't we, telling them to put one hand behind their backs and fight this war by saying that this is not fair to them? They have said that it won't be noticed. It's not that the army are going to go to the streets and start stopping people. It's not. We're not going to be aware that they're even there.
The point is that we have an agency established by the law to do that. Section 215 has told you, for the police to do that. So why can't they work with the police to provide necessary information for them to work? If they want to solve the powers of the police, they allow us to amend our constitutions. Terrorism acts and acts. And Section 3 of the Constitution is very, very clear. If any law is in conflict, inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, such a law, whoever that made it, shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be rendered null and void and of no effect, inclusive of that Terrorism Act. Whoever has drafted it to make it to conflict with the powers given to the police, I did that in error, and that cannot stand. The point now is that, are they reposed with the constitutional powers to do that? The answer is no. Do we have any other paramilitary or whatever agency with constitutional powers to do that? The answer is yes. Why not allow them to do that and then concentrate on your own area? See, military people are not to be seen all the time. It's not some people. So in some countries, you might grow and up to something age before you see a military man. You don't need to see them all over the whole place, because that will even demystify the kind of attachment people have for them. They are to be restricted to war-torn areas. They are not trained to deal with you and ordinary citizens. They don't even tolerate.
Haven't we?
That's why we have the police,
the military. Handling elections. Haven't we since gone past
the law has the law ruled against that. Police officers are supposed to monitor and handle the election and talk to you and also arrest. You can remember that the military people cannot arrest, don't have the powers to arrest. It's only the police officers that are reposed with the powers to arrest and detain. They don't have detention facilities for the civilians.
But a lot of people argue with you that the reason why you're seeing the military almost everywhere in Nigeria is because of the security situation. And hang on a minute, even in the Western world, I was in Paris last year. I was in Charles de Gaulle. And to my amazement, I saw soldiers fully armed to the teeth, battle ready, patrolling the hallway of Charles de Gaulle airports. You will say there's no terrorist threat in France, but you have soldiers. They were in the airport, not outside, but in the airport patrolling. So why is there an exception for Nigeria?
Did you look at
when we even have a bigger wall?
Did you look at their laws and what empowered them to be there? In case of emergency, under the letter by the president, under Section 217, they can be deployed. What we are saying,
but they've been deployed there for God knows.
What we are saying that they've been deployed in the northeast. There was emergency in the north, emergency in some states in the northeast, but not all over the whole federation. The issue here, the issue for determination, if it's a law court, is the whole federation. In a war situation, an extreme emergency situation that might call for military intervention, they might be called upon. We are not saying that they are exclusively removed from conducting any of the activities within the populace. No. But there must be extreme emergency that will demand their presence. And there must be a kind of approval from the National Assembly, from a letter by the president. And in absence of that, police officers will do the work. They can also cooperate with the police. They have every right to cooperate with the police to do this. What we are saying that they are not to be seen in our expressways and all over the whole federation.
The chief of civil military affairs has actually said that the military presence of roadblocks will not be seen by civilians. There won't be roadblocks, and they've also said that in the Northeast, they've been very successful in handling this on their own. There's no time to actually spend a few more months trying to collaborate with the Nigerian police force. And this is something that they already have intel of people that are in these other parts of Nigeria. So those are the people that they are looking for, not necessarily innocent citizens that are going about their daily business.
If they have a covert operation they want to embark on, they don't need to even tell us. They don't even need to, let me just be honest with you. If you tell every Nigerian to go and get identity card, they have made it open. If they want to fish out some kind of high-profile criminals or terrorists or any kind of people that might endanger the lives of the society, they don't need to go public. By going public, you put them on alert. You put them on notice. And they will also go and get the ID card. They can even influence it. It's not the information they supply to NIMC that they'll capture there. So you don't, if they want to get into covert operation, that's why we said we have DSS there. They can go into all these things and then give you information you require. Then you strike. You don't necessarily need to announce to the whole Nigeria, look at what you want to do. Then how do you think that will be effective? What you are saying is it's a breach It's a breach, and it will remain a breach until it is captured in the Constitution. That's why the learned Silk, Falana, has gone to court. He's not going to court because he hates the army. But there is a breach because we are guided by the provisions of the Constitution. Whatever you want to do that is outside the scope of the constitutional provision, it should be declared null and void, despite how good it might be, how good intention it might be. Because that thing that is good intention tomorrow might become bad intention. Okay. So that's why we have to strictly adhere to the provisions of the Constitution and then abide by that until it has been amended. Because if you give them these powers now, tomorrow they might abuse it. Tomorrow they might extend it. Okay. Tomorrow they might come for more. And then what will that say?
Let me ask you, because the army says has the backing of the president, who's the CNC. It has the backing of the Minister of Defense. It has the backing of the Chief of Defense Staff. It's in collaboration with the NIA. It's in collaboration with the DSS. Are you saying that all of these people together didn't think this through? They didn't know about the legality or otherwise of this operation?
In most cases, they may not know. Even if the president has given his consent, approval, affirmation to any action that is not captured in the Constitution, to that extent, it's also void. The president's order does not overrule the provisions of the Constitution. This Constitution supersedes Buhari's presidency. It has been there during Obasanjo, it was there during Yar'Adua, it was there during Jonathan. So it's not Buhari's creation. Buhari is not the owner of it. And Buhari cannot change it. And the president cannot alter it. And the order of the president cannot alter it. Because this Constitution also created the office of the president that he occupied, that gave him even all the powers he's using. So he cannot on his own decide what to do that will overrule the provisions of the Constitution. Even if he has collaborate with every other agency, except it complies with the provisions of the Constitution, it can still be declared as null and void. So, but the point is that let them allow the police to do that. What I know the learned senior advocate is contesting is that, look, you don't have these powers, and we will not give it to you. Until when it is given to you by the Constitution, you cannot exercise it. They restrict your movements to areas who have war situation.
Okay. But the question I want to ask is, we're not looking at the role of the National Assembly in all of this. Isn't the National Assembly supposed to mean it before you have any military operation like it's done in other democracies? Take, for instance, 83, 84, Argentina got incursions into Falklands Island. Before the British Prime Minister could take an action, Parliament sat on a Saturday. And then they took the action after the Parliament sat and they voted on it. Somebody would have thought that this is what our Parliament should be able to sit down and vote on, since it's a military operation, as it were.
That is where constitutional adherence to the Constitution comes in. I earlier raised that issue. There must be a letter from the president to be transmitted to the National Assembly to deliberate on the issues, in line with Section 217, before they can be deployed. But they didn't want to do any of this. And that is where we have a kind of a challenge at some certain issues from the present administration. They tend to take everything, for granted. They believe they can just walk any terrain and then deal with it the way they want. Forgetting that, look, we have laid down procedure that transcended even your emergency.
Breach of constitutions are impeachable offences.
That's the challenge we have again because of the polarized nature of Nigerian political system. Because there are so many offences that the National Assembly will take up and then handle. But when you look at during the election of principal officers of the National Assembly, the party chairman, Adam Soshomole, is saying everybody must be from our party. We have anointed candidates. We have this one that must do. There was a precondition before the emergence of the principal officers. And they have to abide by the powers that they established. That's why at that point we are criticizing that arrangement. We don't need people that are loyal to the president or loyal to the party to become principal officers of the National Assembly. We need independent people that can stand on their own and defend our constitution. I never advocated a romance between the executive and the legislative arm of the government. I don't for once like it. Because it's not always for the good governance of the citizens of the country. But at the point, there will be like a connivance instead of a kind of a proper approach to issues of governance that will enable democracy to take a firm root and enable the citizens to have their way. So these are the challenges we have. The offense, this thing that actually happened now, look at what just happened, it's going on in the US, quid pro quo or whatever with Donald Trump because of a phone call. And they are digging deep into that. But look at our own situation. We have serious issues that have amounted to impeachable offenses or gross misconduct. But National Assembly cannot do that, even when their own powers might have been usurped by the executive arm of the government. They will still not bite or not back. So the point is that we should be conscious
so
of.
what's the essence of multi-armed democracy?
Some people spoke for cooperation between the executive and the legislative arm of the government. I remember the time of Saraki there. It was like, oh, we're not getting it better. They started opposing everything from the president. I said, look, National Assembly, that the members are not created to support the president. They are supposed to oppose the president, oppose the policies, until the president will come so clear to explain to them the benefits of these programs or projects to the citizenry. And if that complies with the constitutional provision, the powers given to the president, they'll go ahead and approve it. And look at what we have. But the point is that, in as much as we have almost presumed lame legislative arm of the government, lame. But the masses must rise. That's why you see SN like Falana taking up this issue. This is the issue that National Assembly should debate. This is the issue that will even be a kind of in the front burner in the National Assembly, discussing why should the military do this without getting national approval from us. And if someone, the president, to come and speak to them on why this issue will even be announced in the first place. But they're not doing any of this. That's why people now took it upon themselves to now go out and look at what the court will say. And so I've got to make a pronouncement on this. Although we know they might still flout the orders of the court. But let's be on record. The court made a pronouncement and it was flouted. Because military people are not trained to deal with civilians, except people on their counterpart, people that might be terrorists, that might have been trained to resist the attack. Because they don't. I was asking somebody one day, okay, assuming but not consider the family, just like maybe I'm on the road, I don't have my ID card, but I have it at home. I say, where's your ID? I say, okay, I don't have it, I have it at home. He said, why won't you? I say, well, why should I have it? Let's say a slap will land on my face. Why should I ask him, why should I have it here with me? A slap will land on my face.
Shouldn't we carry a form of identification?
Because it is necessary.
To carry a form of identification.
Yes, I've actually advocated that we should have that.
We are yet to hear if this was suspended by the Nigerian Army because it was scheduled to go on November 1st.
We'll go on a quick break,
indeed, Rufai, and we'll be back to discuss some more. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News, and continuing the conversation on Operation Positive ID by the Nigerian Army. Mr. Nwokedi is still here. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Before that break, I was asking you, it's two questions. Is there a law that requires Nigerians to carry identification at all times? I want to know that because the question of morality in all of this also appears. Should I, as a citizen, carry a form of identification wherever I'm going? Shouldn't I carry? And the other aspect is because we do know that the Senior Advocate of Nigeria has gone to court over this issue. The scheduled date was November 1st to December 23rd. We are here to hear from the Nigerian Army if this was suspended. What are the legal implications of them going ahead, even though Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Falana, was in court?
To answer the first question, let me just take on that. There is no law that expressly stated that people should move around with their identity cards. Although it is...
But what are the laws that inexpressly state that?
The law that inexpressly says that's Section 41, we just mentioned before. Move freely, all over the whole freely, without any molestation. Okay. Like, you can move freely. But there's no law that said, in moving that freely, you must move with your identity card. Okay. But then, agencies may have their own laws, in as much as it doesn't conflict with the laws of Nigeria. Federal 1999 is amended. But the point is that police officers might ask you for it. Law enforcement agencies might ask you for it. In a situation where the need might arise, you might produce your ID card to identify yourself and where you work, where you live, and what you do for a living. If you fail to do that, they might detain you. So people are supposed to be advised to go about. People working from home are workers, they have ID cards, even the one from the office. Whenever they're going outside the office, you must go with ID card because you'll be able to identify yourself that you are from this law firm and you are representing this law firm, and this law firm authorizes what you are doing. Likewise, national ID cards and voters cards. But
that doesn't have a national validity.
I say for my office.
If you present your work ID card to a police officer, he will say no, he doesn't want that.
No, not in all circumstances. There are circumstances that we even need that more than national ID. National ID card is for you to know you as a Nigerian, but that doesn't show where you work or what you do for a living. In some cases, they may know what you do for a living, and that place, your business ID card will identify you. look here, this is where I work. This is what I do for a living. This is where I do my work. This is the address of the place I work. Because they know, like I rightly said, every Nigerian might have national ID card. It doesn't stop you from committing crimes. It doesn't stop you from engaging in any kind of fraud. But that business ID card will identify what you do. They can go there and make inquiries whether you work there and what that company does. And whether they like your lifestyle can match the lifestyle of that kind of capacity, financial capacity of that place.
With no database.
Do you understand my point? But ID cards, like myself, I always have one. Irrespective of my level, because I know there was a day we had issued, I was going out to Abuja on a route, and something actually came up. We have to like show it. I showed my own, and I also showed what I do. Do you understand my point? So, in as much as we don't have any law that expressly stated that you must go out with wherever you go with it, it's advisable we have it.
Okay.
We'll keep it in our possession, in our wallets or in our purse. Like any place we are going, we must have one. That something might happen and we might need to be identified. And the issue might come up like a crime might be committed in a place, and there may be a random arrest, and they'll start looking for your ID cards to show whom you are. Because if you show your ID card, they may keep you there and go there and verify that place. And once you prove that you work there, tomorrow you'll be released. Like police officers that parade in the night.
Okay.
Especially if you're a night crawler from 1 o'clock
let's not, because time is up. That's not the train of thought. I just was talking about, what becomes of the military?
Yes, if they continue,
if they go ahead.
If there is a court pronouncement. The problem we have now is that the matter has been filed in court by Alene Silk. I don't know whether the matter has a kind of application for like accelerated hearing, and then urgency attached to it. If there is anyone, a date has been given and court has made a pronouncement on that, then they cannot go ahead. But if the matter is just filed and they are just served, it might not serve the access to power to stop them from that operation.
Okay.
It's only when court has made a pronouncement on it, don't go ahead with this. If you go ahead with this, you are violating the orders of the court. It's that time that they cannot go on.
To segue from that, if we're looking at positive identification process going on, who are the vulnerable ones? Who are the people that are going to suffer from this process going on, as well as how can the law protect them? What are the immediate sanctions for violation of rights for people that might be affected by this new policy? They've not told us what there might be the punishment for not having it, because they said they want to catch up notorious criminals. The people that might be very, very vulnerable for this might be the local people. They may not have access to even at the centers where they'll get their national ID card, or where they have a voter's card, all that. I mean, villagers. And unfortunately, they are the ones at the remote areas that might have a borderline towns, which maybe people they might be looking for. That's why we have issues with this now. There are so many inhabitants of remote villages that may not have it. And there are so many farmers that move their goods up and down within intercity and all that, they may not have it. May not even have access to it. So when something happens, how do you handle that? How do you identify them? Without that ID card, can you say, okay, let me go to the bar, to the Sorry, just to clarify, I'm talking about the flip side of things. If I'm a citizen and I'm harassed by an army official, what can I do to make, or what's in the law to help me?
You sue for fundamental right, version of a fundamental right. You have it. If you're not harassed by any enforcement agency, be it the police, the army, you sue them for violations and claim money, claim apology, whatever you want to do as your client.
Where I ever wanted to come in was this. I mean, it's all funny when we talk about this because we all know the case of Nigeria Identity Card from the time of Olusegun Obasanjo, the scam inherent in that system. Till date, a lot of people have not been properly mapped. If you ask on the NIMC now, nothing has been done. So how do you even come in and talk about this when the government looks to have failed in its disposition to properly identify Nigerians? And I'll give you an instance. It's not a difficult order. India came up with a system called Aadhaar. Over 400 million Indians are on that system. All you need is an Aadhaar number. Anywhere you go, you quote your Aadhaar number. They have all your details up to your biometric and fingerprint. It's just a number you need. You don't even need to go out with any form of identification. But in Nigeria, it's not the case, and you want to penalize people for not having identification. You didn't identify them.
You didn't make a proper provision for them to be identified. Like what we always say, during the election, ballot boxes will get to all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. But aside that, nothing goes there again. All these NIMC branches and all, do they have them in rural areas? Do they have them? Have they taken a bold step to like get Nigerians captured? Have you advertised it? Have you actually used like NIA to like what do you call it? I mean, to like make it known that people should know. I mean, National Resource Agency to reach to nooks and crannies of Nigeria, make the machines available at the village squares, at the marketplaces, in the mosques, in the churches, and then become on people to come and register. Have we done that? Have we, even if we collaborate with the banks to even enable us to like say, if you don't have this, you're not going to do that. Have we done that? So now you want people to like identify. You are putting people into greater suffering. How do they do that? Go to the centers where they do this data capture. You can take you for like a whole day. You won't even have the opportunity of being captured. I went there to get my own ID card a couple of years ago. For 3 days I came there. They couldn't do that because they always tell me like we must come before 8. By the time I'm there around 8, I will still have like 300 people there. I have to like exert a kind of influence amongst the people working there for them to capture me for 3 good days. So now, that is in Lagos. I'm not talking of Bumosho, Anambra, Enugu, Ekiti, Oyobonu, Meduguri, Jigawa. I'm talking of Lagos, which is one of the most exposed cities in Nigeria. That's the problem. So how prepared are they to capture the data of Nigerians? But now you want to like come up with a punishment for people that might violate a kind of program where you have not made adequate provision for them to actually get access to that identification in the first place.
But are we being fair to the Nigerian army? They say, you know, this was successful in the Northeast, and they say there's no additional roadblocks. There's no additional troops on the road. What made it successful in the Northeast that would not make it successful in other parts of the country? Don't you think that we should give them benefits of the doubt, that they do understand what they're doing?
Yeah, because that's another conversation. And when you look at it as regards to success in the Northeast and what we have now, then there's also a very difficult circumstance going on. And this circumstance has constantly become the order of the day in society.
I mean, the increased spate of kidnappings, you know, it's everywhere.
Yeah, because it goes back to the conversation on national identity management in this country, because you've not made those provisions.
But why we don't have that, and that's what I'm saying. Why we have found ourselves in this condition, in this reality of not being able to identify everybody, but we still have this huge challenge of insecurity. And the army is saying, this is one way, this is one measure to ensure that these criminal elements do not infiltrate other parts of the country. And so we're carrying out this operation, which we have carried out in the Northeast. And we do understand from intelligence, according to them, they say from intelligence, we do understand that these people are beginning to leave their, you know, comfort zones. So do you think that we should give them benefits of the doubt that they do understand what they are doing?
No, for what you said, Abinisho, this is operation that we have carried out without getting us to know. They said they're not going to mount roadblocks. They're not going to like do all those things. They're not going to like inform the people. Nobody will even know when they do it. That was my question. Why telling us? Why going public? You would have done it. And then if it had been successful there, we have done it here, not to announce it nationwide.
So there would have been a problem. Let me understand. There wouldn't have been a problem.
There would have been a problem if they didn't announce. They want to go into a covert operation. But the point is that I said this earlier. Kidnapping and the hoodlums and banditry, they don't call for military operations. These are like a kind of a kangaroo kind of operation. They just come and do it and go. They don't have like a concentrated camp. They don't have like trained personnel. They don't have like a kind of a ring. Like, okay, this is where they are. This is where they train.
But doesn't the military have intelligence? When you say they don't call for this no intelligence,
what kidnappers can 2 or 4 people can have meet in a room and decide to come and kidnap somebody and kidnap the person and keep it somewhere. So these are things that police would do more because they mix and mingle with the people. They supervise people's lifestyle. This young man is like a car wash operator, a mechanic yesterday. Today he has started buying cars, say living in building hotels. Where the money come from?
One thing
the minister cannot do that.
Thank you so much, Barrister Nwokedi. One thing is certain, we'll definitely still have you to talk about this and many other sundry issues right here, right?